So, welcome to another show of Execution Matters podcast. Today, I've got my dear friend of mine, Balaji, as my guest. So, regarding Balaji, he's a brand strategist and a content design coach, empowering solopreneurs to build hero brands, leveraging brand strategy plus design frameworks and systems that attracts high-ticket clients with clarity and confidence. Thanks, Balaji, for being on the show.
Pleasure is mine, Ganesh. Thanks for inviting me.
So let's start with the brand significance for the importance of the branding part. Okay. So can you talk about why branding, particularly through the content and design, holds such a significance in the B2B marketing space?
Sure. See, branding as such is an overused term and a very underused, actionable thing to build a business or build a brand. So actually branding, why we need to go through the brand processes. Again, branding is very different. Marketing is very different. Branding is why you're doing it, why should you do something, and marketing is how to do that, how to reach your audience. Who is your audience is branding. How to reach your audience is marketing. I want to bring this clarity first. The next thing is why we do these exercises is actually to cut the fluff, cut the fat, and make it be more specific about who we are trying to target and how we are going to target them. That's the most important piece here. So if you don't have that clarity in mind, all the actions that you take going forward will be all based on assumptions. Assumptions, according to me, is like shooting in thin air. The high you would get is you'd be shooting like a machine gun. At the end of after you're done, all that you hear and are left with is noise. Right? We are so focused on the action. So it's like this. I tell folk in a very fun manner. I tell them, we are so egoistic about a brand. We want to tell people, I can dig 20 feet in 20 seconds, but forget where we should actually dig. That's what I tell them. And people think being very consistent is how you build a brand. That is very true. Consistency has to be a part of the brand strategy. Brand strategy should be the foundation that drives every action or anything that you build over on top has to be from that brand strategy. That's the boring stuff, but that is the most interesting and the most important piece of the entire puzzle. It's basically the foundation of the Empire State Building, if you can visualize it that way. Okay. So when you work on the strategy, you then know what you have to be consistent with, or even understand why you have to do this consistently. There is an intention that is clearly set there. So consistency has to be a subset of brand strategy. It cannot be a superset to anything. And the other thing that I would like to tell is people spend a lot of money, a lot of time saying it is branding, right? Consistency is different, intensity is different. Let's say somebody will come and ask me, what if you're saying one post a day is good enough 5 times a week. Why not I post 2 posts or 3 posts a week, which will be 15, right? So consistency versus intensity. See, it is about quality versus quantity. Again, it's an overuse, but focus here. One piece of good thought out content that is connected to your ICP, that has got some value for your ICP, that also tells something about what your brand stands for. There is so much that goes into one piece of content. And also, I would like to say, branding is a sum of many parts. That's the most important thing people need to understand. Because, say for example, LinkedIn branding, if I can talk about that. A solid profile is a sum of many parts. Your banner, your profile picture, your headline, your featured section, your about section, and then your posts. So all of these have to be aligned. There has to be some visual connection. There has to be some logical connection. There should be a value-based connection. Everything should be truly connected. What I find with a lot of folks is they spend a lot of money on getting their banner done, but that's a designer who's designing it. So he's only going to be focused on the vanity side of things. What actually should come inside that banner is what brand strategy is all about, right? And then 2 months later, they come and tweak the headline, and then nothing would work. Then a month later, they come and tweak the headline and the about section. So they're working in silos. When you work in silos like this, it's not going to move the needle. You have to have the sum of many parts all put together. That is what is a strong profile or a strong brand. Then all the actions that precede after that is what gets stacked on top of that. if that answers your question.
Yeah, I really loved that the way you explained. I mean, like the way you talked about intensity and all, right? And for me, I would say branding is all about evolution, right? It is something like you cannot define something like in a specific day, because I have seen like in my past consulting gigs, people talk about the branding a lot, but not doing anything to like incremental the part.
Yes.
I mean, like right now you have a website, you have a social media. At least you can do something today, at least to enhance the copy of the first frame. That will be moving the needle. That's really matters. So true on that part. So for me, it's branding evolution, and I truly agree with you whatever you said. So regarding this foundation, so somewhere you have to start this branding, right? So when constructing this content strategy to strengthen the brand identity of these brands, right? So what are the core principles or foundations that you believe like every B2B marketer should consider?
The content strategy piece, you mean?
Yeah.
So that again has to be based on the brand strategy itself. So again, I'll tell you a little bit about brand strategy now and then connect it to the content strategy. So brand strategy is trying to find out who your ideal client is, what his aspiration is, what is he inspired about, what does he truly care about with whatever you give. So let's say your product might offer 25, 30, 40, 50 different features, but he truly cares about, let's say 12 of them. Okay. So if you're just going to go again, talk about 12, again, it's very broad. So if you can bucket what each of those would fall within. Now, let's say one thing can reduce his time. One benefit could be to that amplifies or reduces the mistakes that most probably people make at that level. And what would that actually cost when that mistake truly happens? If you can bucket it like that, so you're adding a little more specificity to the benefit that you're trying to showcase. See, it's about finding out what is the problem and how you are showcasing that problem, and also then deriving the transformation that is possible if they choose to work with you or choose to try this product or the service that you provide, whatever it might be. So that kind of gives you a clear idea of how you want to do it. So from 50, you've brought it down to 10, and let's say 10 or 15, and you've bucketed, let's say you have 3 buckets and 5 of each. So you're setting clear intentions here for the path. Now, based on all of that, then comes to the content strategy itself. I would say, so content strategy, first you need to have pillars, right? That's the first important thing. So what are your pillars going to be like? Don't have more than 3 or 4, and each main pillar can have 3 sub pillars. That is a good framework to have, and you can, as I told you, all of this is evolving. You can always change going forward. So try to pick 3 main pillars for whatever your business is. One pillar can be time managed. So let's say if it's a SaaS service. Again, I'm assuming all of this, so it might not have too much of context, but I hope you get the idea. So one is time management, one is personnel management. It's a HR type of a SaaS product. One is time management, one is personnel management, and one is managing efficiencies. Okay, I'm just making it up. So within the time management, you can have three other that talks about productivity. That talks about time productivity. Then it talks about managing time. Like that, let's say coming to the second pillar, it's about the personal productivity. Where I talk about time and energy as one of the pillars. Then talk about best practices to manage. You can talk about problem solving in one. It can be whatever like that. So when you have pillars like this, then you can start creating content based on that. So it gives you good signals. So let's take one pillar, for example, and talk about time management. There are so many ways that you can talk about time management specifically to that particular product. Instead, 6 tips to improve your productivity and things like that. Try to bring in a story there. Storytelling is very important here, because otherwise it just becomes another Google paragraph that's already available on Google. Why would you want to do that here?
Yeah.
So you could talk about a certain example or a certain situation. So those are the creative aspects that you can bring within your content strategy, and then talk about it, and that's how you slowly build the blocks from there.
Exactly. So let's talk about this. We have got the content and we have got the design, the branding, right? So let's talk about the intersection between these two. So how do you see this intersection between the content strategy and the design in crafting a compelling brand narrative?
Yeah.
So do you think can one without the design or content, can that succeed without the other?
No, they're like two sides of the coin. Especially in today's digital world, We see so much of digital content today, and everything is through our sensory receptor, which is the eye. Humans process visuals in 1/10 of a second. Just take a moment and imagine this. Forget about the 1/10, like 0.6, forget about that. 1/10 of a second. That is massive, and that is fascinating as well. So we can decide so many things in less than 1 second. For example, should I stop my scroll? Should I read? Or I don't like it. People take decisions in not even a second, in 1/10 of a second when it is visual, right? Again, when we're talking visuals here, I want to emphasize we are not talking about graphic design here at all. We are we are talking about information design here. Okay? So what is the aim of design when it comes to content? That was your question. That was the point, right? I want to again emphasize here. This is the subject that I am very passionate about. Content is information, nothing more to it. But with design, the design that I'm talking about, the information design, you have to take that route to build intelligence over the information that you have. How do you make it easy for them to read? How do you break it? So that's why carousels is one of my favorite types. So how do you break down a complex topic into easy readable chunks across 10 slides or 12 slides or whatever it might be? So and then design here is information design is how do you create emphasis to a certain point that you're telling, because you're not there at that time, you're not there. So instead of adding too many visual elements that are actually distracting, how do you bring in visual hierarchy? So where the person needs to see the first one, where is the second level emphasis that you want to give, what is the italics that you want to give, maybe to take them to the next slide, whatever it might be, right? That is why design is very important. So you basically, the other big mistake a lot of people do is they add too many elements to one particular page, and when I ask them why would you want to choose to do this, they say I want it to pop. That's why they'll stop scrolling. I tell them, never try to grab somebody's attention. That's just a dopamine goal, right? Don't do that. You have to guide their attention. You have to guide what they see, how they see. When that is effortless, that is when people stay on your content for a longer time, because there is already so much of noise, visual noise. I'm saying we talk about pollution, smoke pollution. We talk about there is something called as visual pollution that nobody actually talks about.
Content pollution.
Content, visual pollution. There's so much of that. So when you keep it simple, focus on the content and focus where you want to emphasize on the content is where content and design intersect, and that gives the reader a very easy, effortless experience. In my case, I would say leave them with the premium experience, and less is so much more.
Excellent, man. I can relate that. I think definitely, as you said, is both are so related, but the thing is how we play with that is so important. It is not in too much of colors or too much of elements that won't really as attention grabber. Definitely is not going to help you for sure. But I think less is more. I think in terms of design, in terms of content, if you can communicate that with less elements, that really helps a lot there. So true on that part. So let's talk about this. Right now the trends are changing, the landscape is evolving, right? So you can see like a lot of rise of the social platforms. So LinkedIn there, Instagram there, right? So how do you ensure that the branding remains so consistent while optimizing content and design on the various channels?
So after the brand strategy piece that I was talking about, next is the brand identity piece, right? So the identity again is based on the brand strategy. Who is the ICP? What are the aspirations? What are the look and feel that you need to give them? All of that, right? There you also build your guidelines of how you want to build your content. How should the content look? If it is going to have a lot of, let's say, a lot of bullets or a lot of images, how are you going to play around with all of that? So there has to be a framework that needs to be built, and I call it has to be modular enough. It should be like IKEA. It's like pick and put together, and you standardize it really well, and also it should have its own flavor, and whenever people see it, they should feel familiar of, okay, let's say if my carousel comes out, people immediately know it is coming from me. So that brand familiarity is so important, and a lot of people oversee this aspect of it when it comes to any kind of marketing, B2B marketing or even content marketing as well. So let's say you post 2 carousels at least a week, okay? That's 100 opportunities where you have people coming in to see your content. And if your content is good, imagine the amount of credibility, trust, and familiarity that would psychologically get built within somebody's mind. It is massive, but a lot of people don't understand this or overlook this. Because a carousel is a great type of post for you to hold the maximum attention and the time that they spend on one particular person or the post. If it's a person, it's a personal brand. For a post, it's a business. There's so much. That's a lot of opportunity there. So if you focus and have your foundations properly done for you, like I'm talking about the content design frameworks, your brand identity, all of that also done based on your brand strategy, that is when truly shines.
Excellent, man. Great insights there. Now let's talk about some challenges faced by the B2B brands, okay, in terms of when they're doing the B2B branding part. So what are the unique challenges that you see like the B2B companies face in branding when they compare that with the B2C part? And how do the content strategy and the design play a role in addressing these challenges?
So B2B or B2C, there are a couple of common problems that a lot of people have is this. See, content is one. Design is another part. You cannot expect the content writer to design carousels for you. They expect the same person to do that. Then I would say, you know what, even God's content can go completely missing if it is in a terrible design. Again, information design.
Yeah.
Okay? But that doesn't mean bad content and good design will make it better. It has to be a good balance of both. So that's the mistake I see a lot of companies making. And then, see, you have to respect design, information design. It's not about making it look good. It's not about the vanity aspect at all. It's about making something work. There is a lot of deep science into content design. There's a lot of deep science there. So a couple of weeks ago, I was working with a client. There was a lot of white space. When I say white space, clean space. There's nothing there. A lot of white space, and she was like, "Can we add few things here?" I said, "Why?" No, it's a lot of space. That's exactly opposite to what I'm thinking. There should be white space so that there should be breathable space. It should be easy on the eyes and so on and so forth. But you see how, and then the person who's making these decisions has zero idea about information design. So you should have a content writer and a content designer both in-house, or you can have them outsourced as well. But there should be a clear alignment with that team, whether it's outsourced or in-house. You should have a good core team that aligns all of this, and it should be taken very seriously. It's not about, at the end of the year, I posted 250 times in 365 days. Those are not the kind of metrics that you need to go with. What is the quality of content you're posting? There should be a quality assessment person in charge. These are all phenomenal opportunities today that people are missing out on, and they think they are extra costs or extra burden. It's actually not that at all. I would tell you, for people who are building personal brands, also business brands to a good extent, anybody who's got a LinkedIn account or a LinkedIn business page, who has a banner, who has a logo, is called a personal brand or a business today. How are you going to stand out? You have to stand out from the noise. And one more thing I'll tell you, people are looking for good people. The problems are on both ends. As a business, you want to work with the best client, not necessarily an expensive client, with a good client, right? Where you can give them good experience and they can give you a good working experience as well. But you are looking for them. They are also looking for the best person because they don't want to waste time. They're willing to pay 10-20% more. But where am I going to find them? And they find so many mediocre people, and the precedents those people set leave them with so much of negative thoughts of, okay, everybody does mediocre work. Then when you go stand there, you're actually fighting against price. You should be leading with value. Good branding, when you have a good brand in place, you're actually leading with value. When you lead with value, the kind of questions that they ask you will be a totally different. They would never ask you, how much do you charge? Can you tell me what is it that you can do for me? That question is very different from what do you charge? If somebody asks you that, they're only comparing apples and apples or oranges and oranges. Then whatever you tell them, they're not going to understand. But as a brand, you put out good content, they are actually seeing this and they are actually warming up for you. You're actually warming them up. Instead of just going for a first face-to-face meeting, you cannot drive with value. You can only drive with price. Then why do you want to be in that place? That is the power of a brand. And your entire organization depends on that one salesperson. If he leaves, you're again into a lot of problem, right? So when you have a brand, that brand is what drives and not just one single person. That in B2B marketing, that's a huge problem that people have. Marketing versus the sales team. That's something that I would like to highlight as well.
Excellent, man. I think, yeah, that's so true. And what you liked, like you said in the conversation, was like we are searching for clients and the clients are searching for the best people. So I mean, like when you really need to stand out there, definitely we need to have a mark with our personal brand, because we are looking for the clients, high ticket clients, and they're also looking for some great resources to do their branding part. So definitely it's all about standing out with the right stuff there. So true. So let's talk something about the metrics of success in B2B branding. So when evaluating the effectiveness of branding initiative through the content and design, what key metrics or indicators that you prioritize, which is worth telling for that part?
See, it again depends. So let's say if you're talking about LinkedIn or you're talking about, let's start with LinkedIn. So if you're talking about LinkedIn, you can see the impressions that come through. That is just one small piece. You don't base all of this on one thing. So the main thing is, the second biggest one is your likes, and likes is one. Likes and impressions are probably the lowest ends for me. I would say comments. And also in the comments, who are the folks who regularly comment? So followers are one, true fans are another. Find out who those true fans are and talk to them and ask them, why do you like my content? Why do you see, we always think getting feedback is only to get negative feedback and then trying to build on it. That's something that a lot of people have. But I would say if there's somebody who's telling you you are amazing, find out why you are amazing and hammer in more on that. That's one thing. So from followers to aim for true fans is one. Then if you're having a lead magnet there as a part of your content, you're leading them to a lead magnet, then find out how many people are actually signing up for the newsletter or signing up for that lead magnet, what is the number, and also go back and see that number and the impression, that number and the comments, likes and impressions, is there some connection there? Why did that do better? Why is that? All of those small details, that alignment I was talking about, as I told you, it's always, everything is a sum of many parts. So make sure everything is aligned and check what is going on. So that is one way of doing it. And let's say if you are moving people from there to your Calendly to book in a call with your team or whatever, how many people are booking that? All of that can also be thought through. And then one more thing could be, okay, so how many people from there are clicking and going to your website? If you have a landing page or something like that, then what is that? So all of these are all connected. So I think these are some of the metrics that I would definitely look at. And please don't complicate any of this. That's the most important piece.
Yeah, because in B2B marketing, there's a lot of metrics to track. A lot of times marketers can go to the level of confusion or overwhelming. It's so true. So I think we have to track the right metrics for success in the long term. Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. Before you move on, that's what I'm saying. So let's say the entrepreneur, if he's asking for metrics, if the content writer is talking about something and if the design guy is talking about something, that's what I'm saying. So you actually won't know where the whole real problem is. That's why when the team is completely aligned, if let's say this post did well, the content creator and the design person should understand why they should understand why something worked at their level at itself. If this person, okay, all that my work is design and then my work is only content. For a bad design, your content don't work. Maybe it was fantastic content. We don't know. That alignment should be there. Why something is being done? What is our brand? Who are we catering to? All of this, both of them should know clearly why. So that's why I'm saying once again that brand strategy piece is so important. You might spend days, weeks to build a strategy, but once you build the strategy, it will probably be a 1-page or 2-3-page document. These are my ICPs. These are the people we are going behind. So these are their aspirations. You have to also educate the people at every level. So that's what big brands do. Everybody. So let's say, for example, you walk into an Apple store. Tim Cook is up there and the person on the floor is there. But there is some clear alignment with the experience that you have. With every touch point, if you see there is a certain experience. Why that happens is they have communicated that across the value chain. That is why it is like that. I hope.
So
Yeah.
true. Yeah, we talk a lot about this marketing and sales alignment. I think the alignment between all these people for a uniform branding, that is a very must. And one thing that you said really attracted me was like this is getting ignored by even the personal brands and even the company brands. Like for example, if some post is getting viral, or probably it got a lot of impressions, a lot of likes, a lot of comments. Definitely, we have to dig deeper on that. But I think why it went viral, is that because of
100%.
design? Is that because of the content, or is that because of the content and the design? What really worked? So we cannot make every post getting popular. That is not possible in social platforms. But if some post is getting popular, there might be some reason behind it. So I think if you can really understand the truth behind it, I think we can replicate on the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And first of all, going viral, I'm very against that, because it depends. It again depends on what kind of a product. If it's entertainment, it can go viral, then it does make a lot of sense. But for any real product, I would say going viral is a very bad idea, because you won't know, you cannot really judge anything based on that. Let's say a SaaS product, 2 million people saw that because some hero showed it up on TV. What are you going to do with that? 2 million people looked. But the problem here is who will actually buy. When it comes to putting it out, who's actually going to buy the product? You're going to be very confused. I'm not a big fan of virality at all.
Yeah, what I meant was like something which is getting popular. Like probably you might be getting every day some 20 likes, and some posts got some 100 likes.
Yes.
So definitely we have to dig deeper on
100%.
that part. And the thing that you said about the virality part, I definitely agree, because you can get some too many impressions and everyone in the world might be liking it, but doesn't mean that you're making a sale out of it. That you can see in LinkedIn every single day, right? Like there are creators out getting some lot of vanity metrics there. When we talk to them so much dig deeper, they're not making much money out there. So let's talk about this authenticity part of the content, okay? So it is very crucial in the personal branding, right? So how do you ensure like the content and the design strategies really reflect a brand's essence without appearing like artificial or like inauthentic?
Absolutely. So that's again, whenever you talk to me, I'll go back to this word brand strategy, right? So that message, that document, 2-3 page, 5-10 page document will clearly tell you what that look and feel should be like. So let's say if you're a premium brand, there should be a lot of white space. Simple as that. Okay. Of course, it's much more complicated. I'm just, for the general audience, I'm just telling. So yeah, so there's again a lot of science behind why this design route was chosen, why this information is posted in this fashion, so on and so forth. For example, if you take a Bombardier advertisement, if you take that, if you see the Bombardier product will be probably taking up 80 to 85% of the page, or let's say a Rolls Royce or any of these they'll probably be taking 80 to 85%. The words that you see will probably be 10% there. Everything else will be white space. Why? You should be putting the words so big, people will not read it. That's why I'm saying guiding the attention. You're not grabbing the attention here, you're guiding the attention. When people see such a big aircraft, they imagine, I told you, less than 1/10 of a second, we imagine that everything, and then next thing is to go read it, and which is legible enough to go read. For example, I find this very funny. In a lot of the poster designs I see, the date and the venue will probably be 30% of the page, and everything else will be less. According to me, that should probably be only 5%. It should just be readable, that's all. Somebody will tell me why they should know when the store is opening. I said, listen, if you guide the attention, if you create that interest genuinely and authentically, when you are as a brand, when you create that interest, if somebody likes it, they'll go read it. It's there. If you just have just the date so big, if I'm not interested, why will I even care about it? You see, there is a lot of psychology that goes behind being authentic, showcasing yourself in a certain way that talks to your ideal audience. There's so much that alignment is very, very important. So based on your ICP, if you build your identity, that is how you become an authentic brand.
Excellent, man. Real talk on authenticity part on the personal branding. Excellent step. So let's talk about some future trends. There are a lot of emerging trends happening on the personal branding, right? So what are the things that you have noticed, like the emerging trends or shifts in content strategy and design, that you believe will shape the B2B branding in the coming years?
I think people have now realized and they've started to focus on the customers a lot, trying to understand customers' lifestyles, their aspirations, what is in it for them. We have to understand that, not just generally, let's say using that particular product. How do they feel when they have used that product? How do they feel as an accomplishment at the end of something? They try to understand what is in it, what kind of changes it brings to their life per se, more than anything, and try to talk more about that, so that they feel, so that they bring more connection to that. Also, I'm a big fan of Apple, but again, it's very cliched. I've been following Apple for the last 20 years plus. Their design has truly inspired me. Their brand design, I would say, has inspired me a lot in a lot of ways. If you see all the every 2 to 3 mega events they have now, they do it all online. If you go look at all those 2-minute ads that they do, everything is about people. Nothing is about Apple there. You just have to go see that to believe it. There's nothing about Apple. At the end of the whole thing, the entire screen, the Apple logo will be 5% of the screen, and everything will be blank. Right? So that is the authenticity of them. It's not about me, it's about you. So they talk about this Apple Watch where they have a fall. They immediately they're able to that message goes to a family member, and how it brings a change to their life. They don't talk about the accident per se. They talk about the life after the accident. Let's say somebody came and took attention, so that now he's not in a wheelchair, but he's celebrating his kid's birthday. You see that change? They're not talking about the watch at all there at all. They're not talking about that. They're talking about the life per se. That is what I'm coming to see, and that is how it should be. And there is no cringe there. That is one big thing with good brands. There is no cringe. There is actually true value. If you're only basing it on cringe, you're going to get a lot of views, but your buyers will not actually pay to actually move. That's one thing. That shift has to be done. If you want paying, other than entertainment, if you're doing anything else, it has to be about them and very little about you.
Excellent, man. I think whether it's any B2B brand or B2C brand, any great brand out there, they know the real value of the human-to-human connection over there, right? Because as you say, a lot of Apple advertisement, even I can also relate, because it is less about the product itself. It is about some storytelling there. It's about some human connections there. They talk about that a lot. Then in the end, only they're saying like the product is helping out there. So that is something like a great level of human-to-human connection branding out there. So I think we have come to the conclusions podcast, Balaji. So I would like to ask you this question to you. So for B2B marketers, okay, if they want to strengthen their brand through the content strategy and design, so what kind of advice or insights that you would give to them based upon your vast experience that you have on personal branding through design and content?
See, first you have to believe that branding and marketing are aligned, number one. Number two, branding comes first, marketing comes next. Number two. Number three is, whatever you plan to do, it has to be structured and has to be intentional. So that is the second one. Fourth one is, you have to make sure it is clearly communicated across the value chain when you are creating. And I want you to respect the fact that a lot of people miss this. The top management and the real person who's creation is something beautiful and is something very, very organic. The creative imagination, treat those people very well. I'm not saying pay them well. I'm not talking about all that. You have to treat them well. You have to feed them. It's like going to any artist, right? You have to tell them what do you want clearly, and then the artist can give the best he's got. That's the same with all of this. There is a lot of creative imagination that goes on. And when it comes to content writing also, the imagination is not about designing something alone. It's about writing. It's the writing process. It's the creation. Why do movies truly stand out? It's because of the story and the writing of that story, right? It's the same today with content. You have to look at it. And you have to break a lot of myths. You should have a lot of mindset shifts, because you have a lot of bad advice floating. Today, if building a brand is not about posting 5 times a week, those are not metrics at all for you to focus on. Now, what I find funny is, I'll give you this example. If I go to gym 5 times a week, I will become slimmer, become stronger. It's not true. Not at all true. Going to the gym is only the action. But there is preparation, there has to be intention. Okay, what is the intention here? I want to get stronger, fine. Where do you want to get stronger? Shoulders, abs, or is it going to be arms? Or are you trying to train for a particular sport? See, there are so many questions here. All of this has to be answered. Going to the gym is only an action. Just by posting 5 times a week does not build anything. That needs to be understood. And if you're doing only 3 times a week, that's absolutely fine too. Find out why you want to do 3 times a week. Why not 5 times a week? Or I'm doing it 5 times. No, I'm going to do it only 3. Answer. You need to have answers to every action that you're doing before and after. So these are the few pointers that I would give, and make sure everybody in the value chain are aligned, because everybody has their own pillars to accomplish. So once all of that is done, that is when things become really, really solid. And when something doesn't work, the person who created himself would know why it didn't work. That is so important. The creator should know why something didn't work, and it's more important, he or she should know why it worked. So more than any of the marketing strategies per se, this has to be fixed first. And the other things are all evolving, and you will figure it out as you move along.
Yeah.
When these 4 or 5 minds come together, if all of these minds are working in silos, a lot of money will be lost. Time, energy, and money will be lost. So I hope I answered that question for you in a very different way.
Excellent, man. Yeah, excellent, man. I think I love the way you explained the gym as an example, right? As you said, I think that really matters. Like everything, the figuring out part will be there forever, right? Whether you are on this level or on that level, the figuring out part is for them, everyone, right? But the thing is, at any point, the intention should be very clear.
Yes.
Like what I'm going to do, like where I'm going to achieve, and where it's going to really strengthen the brand. That really matters. The intention should be very clear. The clarity should be there. So that really matters. Excellent, man. Excellent insights over the Balaji. So I think through this podcast, even I learned a lot. I think I am also gaining a lot of clarity on what I have to do from tomorrow on my personal branding part. So thank you so much for that part.
Pleasure is mine, Bhuvanesh. You always have me on your DM. So whenever you want, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to chat with you.
And by the way, if anyone wants to reach out to you do this personal branding part, okay, so can I include your LinkedIn profile with this YouTube video description?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead, please.
So that is the best way to reach you, right?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to
Excellent. Me. And also I saw your website there, I think, so I can include that link as
sure.
well, right?
Sure, please. You're most welcome.
Excellent. So thank you so much, Balaji. Thanks for your time and giving your knowledge about this personal branding part. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Balaji.